Welcome to KAWO's ultimate introduction to social media in China. In this video, we're going to be looking at the incredible ecosystem of video, live streaming, and also short video in China. We've tried to break down the video ecosystem into these three main categories. The first one is the streaming platforms, and you can think of these a little bit like a combination between perhaps YouTube, but also Netflix as well. They all license content from both Western providers and also Chinese content houses, the equivalents of Disney, etc. here in China. And these platforms are all, again, owned by the major players in this ecosystem. At the top, we have iQIYI, which is owned by Baidu. And then next, we have Tencent's own video platform. I think it's often known as QQ Video. It's also where, if you're doing marketing, if any videos that you want to put inside WeChat articles or anything else like that, they're all going to also be hosted on Tencent's video platform. Then third, in sort of a slightly more distant place, is Youku, which also owns Tudou. Youku is actually the early frontrunner in the video category in China, and they actually went public and went on to acquire their main rival at the time, which was Tudou, and they've since fallen back a bit. Tencent has had the advantage of really growing its platform through its own ecosystem and shutting out others. If you're posting content on Weibo, you can actually link to almost any of these platforms, and Weibo will embed your video directly into the Weibo stream, which is very convenient. Then fourth on this list is Bilibili. Now Bilibili's been here for quite a while. It's not a new platform, but it's been very hot recently. It's seen as being a bit more authentic and in some ways most similar to the YouTube of China. You're going to find more original content creators on Bilibili, and it has a slightly maybe higher end audience. Then the next category we've put these platforms into is short video. So this is the thing that is receiving a lot of controversy at the moment with TikTok in the US and in other countries, India having recently banned it and the US making moves towards banning it. But short video has been an absolute sensation. I still remember sitting on a long coach journey in China. I think it was maybe 4 or 5 hours, and watching a guy sat next to me watching 15-second videos for the entire duration of the journey. And I think it was really at that point that I first realized the power of the short video platforms, that people weren't wanting to watch these huge feature-length pieces of content, but to just scroll through these short clips of often amusing, funny content. Also within the short video category, you've got KAWO, which is the kind of competitor to Douyin. We're actually going to go into these platforms a little bit more detail in a minute. And then we've also got the category of live streaming. Live streaming is something we've seen in the West. You know, Facebook has Facebook Live, Instagram Live. You've also got LinkedIn Live lately, which I'm not entirely sure about the use case of that, but they've decided to add that function as well. Well, live streaming in China is also a really big phenomenon, and we'll be taking a quick look at that too. So on this next slide here, you can see the breakdown of the different platforms. We've got iQIYI there with 301 million users, really the dominant platform there. They have a huge amount of content that you can consume, and you can subscribe, pay a small fee with mobile payments through your phone, through WeChat or Alipay, and then you're able to watch that content. It's interesting to note that there's not really any such thing as recurring monthly subscriptions in China. They are starting to become the case, but actually most of these consumer type platforms require you to pay up front in advance. There's not really subscription credit card billing in China like we have in the West, where you can just subscribe to a magazine or a service like Netflix, and every month the money's taken off your card. A lot of these applications require you to pay upfront for 3, 6 months, a year or more at once. So as we said, Tencent Video, part of the WeChat Tencent ecosystem. and 100% owned by Tencent. Then we've got Youku, which was owned by Alibaba. And finally, Bilibili, which is an interesting case again of Alibaba and Tencent co-investing. There's been a lot of interest in the platform Bilibili recently. We've seen brands like LV doing a campaign on Bilibili, and it's certainly a question we get asked by a lot of our customers: when and where are you going to support Bilibili? As they see it a really good platform for quite high quality content marketing. It has a very high quality audience. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens to Bilibili in the coming year as it attracts more popularity. So then on viral video streaming, Douyin really was the front runner when it came to viral video, and Kuaishou are their #1 competitor. But these are two very different platforms. Douyin is much more popular in first-tier cities, and Kuaishou is much more popular in lower-tier cities. The content on these two platforms is also very different. I was just talking to a marketer yesterday who was saying that as somebody from a first-tier city, she almost doesn't even understand or quite get the content on Kuaishou. Kuaishou also has a lot more commercialized content. So there's a lot of brands use it as a platform for actually selling products, describing their products, and the users are quite happy to receive this type of content. They don't feel bombarded with this advertorial type content. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Will there continue to be two players in this market? Will they come up against each other more as rivals in the future? There's definitely a lot of brands at this point are having a presence on both of those platforms. One of the other interesting peculiarities is that Kuaishou also has a slightly more geographic focus. It's very popular in Dongbei with a lot of users there. Quite why, I'm not entirely sure. So again, an example of where different audiences, different platforms, and so as marketers we really have to understand who we're trying to reach and then select the appropriate platform. Going on to live streaming, this is a really interesting one for me. I must admit, I personally have never really been a fan of live streaming, and it can be quite hard, I think, for a lot of us, certainly in the West, and to be honest, even in first-tier cities, to relate to the phenomenon of live streaming, but it is undeniably incredibly popular. We included Taobao Live in our e-commerce section, which is a product kind of within Taobao, allowing brands and KOLs to stream about products. But there are also these other platforms. There's Douyu, which is the most popular platform owned by Tencent. There's Huya, which again, another Tencent property. There's Huajiao, which unusually for a reasonably successful tech company in China is actually private. And then there's YY, which is listed on the NASDAQ. I'm going to cover YY in a little bit more detail because you'll see on this next slide here, this film, The People's Republic of Desire. For me, this has been a really impactful film. I actually was lucky enough to watch a private screening with the director and experience the Q&A afterwards. And having been in China already 12 years at that point, it still opened my mind as to the real scale and potential of China. Seeing this completely different side of China that I'd never seen before. I don't want to give this film away, but I would highly encourage anybody to watch it. You should be able to find it online, and I think you can possibly even download it on Vimeo. If you go to their website, desire.film, and take the time to watch this film, it will open your eyes as to the potential world that we're going to be living in the future. Certainly for me, it had slight echoes of Ready Player One, the fictional story, where you see all these people who spend a lot of their time living in this virtual world. That's definitely the case in this film. You see all these people whose jobs are not necessarily that exciting, but live streaming gives them this way to live vicariously through their heroes, other Chinese people living similar lives in other parts of the country. To watch the next video in this series about travel and tourism platforms in China, just click up there. To download the full PDF with all of the slides from this entire guide, just have a look down in the description below this video and you'll find the link. KAWO is a software company that helps brands and teams all over the world to achieve success on social media in China, and we created this guide. To learn more about our platform, just click on the video over there.